Hi, I'm Alvin. I'm a tasty producer, and these are some of my most viral recipes. I'll be showing you how to make my barbecue rib sandwich to feed a crowd. So this recipe is pretty cool because it's basically a giant version of that favorite fast food rib sandwich that pretty much everybody knows. It requires an entire slab of baby back ribs, which is kind of awesome because I love ribs, I love meat. So basically the concept is that you cook barbecue ribs pretty normally and you just add some seasoning, some, your glaze, your barbecue sauce to make a nice rack of ribs. So the funny thing is the idea came to me at a very weird time. I was like in my dorm, like senior year of college, and at 1:30 a.m. I was browsing the internet looking for barbecue videos to fall asleep to. I saw this video where they had taken a giant slab of barbecue ribs and they were like, oh my God, I think they flipped it over, and then he wanted to show the camera how tender the meat was, so he took one of the bones out, and I was like, oh my God, he just straight up pulled the bone right out of the rib. The person did that to show how tender it was, and I was like, whoa, but wait, what happens if you take all of them out? So I had this brain blast at 2 a.m. laying in bed on a weeknight, and I was like, I want to try this. You kind of slowly pull the bone right out of each sort of rib. And the key here is actually not to just tear it out. You want to keep as much of it as intact as possible because you want it to be a nice sandwich. But the tricky thing is, if it's super tender, it's gonna fall out. That's totally fine. And I gotta say, when I was making this video, I definitely, the moment I first pulled the bone out, it was just so satisfying in all the right and all the wrong ways that I just kept doing it. And I was like, man, I should probably record this. I was pulling out the bones from a very close-up angle for a very long time. So kind of after that's done, you kind of cook it normally as you would. And the trickiest part is transferring that slab of beautiful glazed meat onto a nice bun. And the key here is to actually get a nice piece of toasted bread that matches whatever the ribs you're gonna make. So as long as you get some bread and you toast it and you butter it and it fits with the rib, you can add whatever toppings you want. I like onions, so I chose to add onions and some parsley. The coolest part is when you actually serve it, because when you slice it along the edges of the sandwich, you're actually gonna get one rib per person, and it's because it's one sandwich per person. So you just cut it up into what you think where the ribs were. Everybody gets a nice sandwich that they can just chomp on, and it's, it's like a boneless rib, and what could be better than that? I was surprised it actually turned out really well. It's kind of like your childhood, fast food rib sandwich reimagined with actual ribs, because who knows what's in the original one. And if you do make it, tag me, send it over. I think it's awesome when you guys make our recipes, so I think that's a keeper for sure if you want to entertain, if you just want some ribs, or if you're just looking for lunch, like me on a weekly basis. During my time at Tasty, I've gone through a lot of phases. There was, the giant food phase, and at one point, a reoccurring phase was the layer phase. I absolutely love layers. I think they're beautiful. I think that can be really cool, very visual, very stunning, and can incorporate a lot of flavor. So I was definitely in a phase of just making foods that had beautiful layers to them. I love cheesecake. A lot of people love cheesecake. I love cookies and cream. A lot of people love cookies and cream. So I had this idea of making a cookies and cream cheesecake that was just purely black and white, but had the cleanest layers possible. The thought process was that I would take, the base would be the cookies, the filling would be the cheesecake that also uses the fillings from the cookies, and the top would be a thin layer of those pulverized, ground or fine powdered of the cookies, so you get a black, white, black look. So pretty much is you start with the base, you make the filling, and then you do the top. So the base is just crushed pulverized cookies that you mix with some butter. You bake it like a graham cracker crust. It's pretty simple. You just put it in and bake it. You kind of really want to press it flat so there's no huge lumps. So that goes in, and after you separate the filling from the cookies, you want to save the cookie filling to make sure that you can use that for the cheesecake filling. You mix that with some cream cheese, and it's a pretty standard cheesecake batter recipe. What makes this a no-bake recipe is that it uses gelatin to help set the mixture. So gelatin mixture is then whisked back in to the cheesecake mixture, so it creates this really smooth, really nice, really velvety kind of texture that also has the melted cookie filling in it. So you don't really waste anything here. It's kind of, you separate the cookie into the crust, you separate the filling into the cheesecake, and it's basically redefining the shape of what the cookie looked like in the first plate. Once that filling is set, you want to pour that into the baked cheesecake mold, and that kind of sets in the fridge. You want to make sure that it's as smooth as possible, no lumps. If you really need to and you see lumps and flecks of stuff, you can sieve it. You can pass it through a mesh sieve to get rid of any impurities if you really want to. That goes in the fridge for a very long time. If you actually want the cleanest layers possible, you can throw it in the freezer. It's not going to make a difference to the taste and the texture because by the time you serve it, it's going to be cold anyways. And the reason why I didn't bake this one is because when you bake a cheesecake, I'm not good at it, but I found it pretty difficult to get like this perfect smooth like top layer with no bumps, no dips, no crevices or anything. So I went for the no bake route. So this recipe is pretty simple, and the key I think to really getting those clean layers is after the whole thing is done, you do want to put it back into the fridge or the freezer. If you put it in the freezer, you will get the sharpest, cleanest layers possible. This is one of my personal secrets for cutting cakes, cutting cheesecakes, cutting pies, is either freezing them or semi-freezing them, because when the knife goes through, it goes straight down, it doesn't bend, it doesn't really drag on anything. It really helps give you those nice clean layers. So it's a play on a cheesecake that I think was very fun. It satisfied my layer cravings at the time, although I definitely made a lot more layered stuff after that. It is a no-bake cheesecake, so you don't actually have to use your oven, but it is a fun recipe. It doesn't require too much cooking. If you do make it, let me know. I'll be here making my layered stuff, so happy baking, or no baking in this case. I'll be teaching you how to make my prime rib with garlic butter. So prime rib is commonly eaten around the holidays, and I love prime rib. I love steak. Steak is my #1 favorite thing to eat and to make in the entire world. If you don't know what prime rib is, it is essentially just a bunch of ribeyes stacked together. It is what ribeyes would be if you did not cut steaks from them. And for the seasoning, this is just a very seasoned garlic butter with a lot of spices. It's just gonna help the prime rib get a lot of flavor, and it's gonna taste really awesome. Garlic and butter go really well with the steak, so why not just have it with prime rib? And this method, you're kind of coating the whole thing. I know it's a lot of butter, but it's gonna help flavor this huge piece of meat. It's gonna melt off. We're gonna use that later, so don't worry about it. And it's the holidays, you're not trying to diet. I hope not. If you are, maybe don't watch the rest of this video because it's a lot of butter. This technique is actually very interesting. I was actually trying it for the first time. This is like the 500-degree technique where you put it in the oven, super hot, 500 degrees for around 30 minutes, depending on the weight and size of your roast. And then you do this technique where you turn the oven off, but you leave the door closed and you do not open it because the residual heat is supposed to continue to cook the prime rib all the way through. It's gonna smell great, it's gonna look great. You cannot open the oven door. If you open the oven door, the heat's just gonna come out. You're just gonna have a raw prime rib, and that's no good. If your oven has a fan that helps take away that heat, this method will not work. It's just gonna end up raw. So double check that your fan doesn't try to carry away that extra heat, or else you need to look up some other cooking methods for the prime rib. I cook it to medium rare. You can cook it however you like, just anything besides medium rare. Probably can't be my friend. You take it out after that 2 hours or 2.5 hours. You let it rest, and while that kind of happens on the side, we want to make a gravy. Because prime rib is essentially cooked as a whole roast, it's actually not going to get super seasoned all the way through. So when you slice it, you actually need to make sure that you have some sort of seasoning or sauce. In this case, we're gonna make a gravy. What you can do is you can use the drippings from the pan that you made the prime rib in, which was the beef fat, all that butter, all those flavors, all those juices, that garlic. It's still in there, don't waste it. So You're gonna wanna strain out, take out any of the super burnt bits, leave behind the fat and the juices, combine that, with some flour, with some beef stock and some other things, and kind of cook it over heat until it gets nice and thick into a sauce. So that's gonna be the gravy for the prime rib. It's pretty awesome, and you can season as you go. When I was making this video, actually, it was pretty late. I think it was like even a weekend where it was just a super expensive, huge chunk of ribeye, and I really did not want to mess it up, and I was very scared I was gonna, make it, mess it up and have to spend more money to get it right. And it is an expensive cut, so make sure that you do treat it well. If you have a meat thermometer, that'll save you a lot of headache into knowing if it's cooked or not. You want to aim for around 130 to 135 if you're going for medium rare. Anything higher than that is just more well done. And my favorite part is just it's that reveal. It's when you first get that nice thick slice out of there and the whole thing just comes out. It's juicy, it's pink, it's perfectly cooked. You plate it with some nice mashed potatoes, you plate it with some nice vegetables, you pour some gravy, you kind of drench it in gravy for me, and that's pretty much it. You kind of go ham. You go in and you try not to get a second slice, but knowing me, I'm gonna get like 3 slices. So yeah, if you do make it, let me know, send over pictures, ask me questions. It's, one of my favorite recipes of all time I've ever made on Tasty, one of the proudest I've ever been. Happy to help you guys out, and I just want you guys to enjoy your steak as much as I do. Making these recipes is honestly, it's not just fun, but I think allows me to do a lot of things that I do currently in life and have done before. It is something that I enjoy it when I'm able to make other people happy by giving them food, because that makes me happy. And making tasty videos is essentially being able to make hundreds and thousands and if not millions of people happy in a certain way. And I think that's just pretty awesome. So if you do make it, let me know. I really love seeing when people make, and I think it's just pretty awesome.